Hello and welcome to Simply Be Sustainable podcast. My name is Brooke. I am your host. And today we are going off the cuff, guys, because I had a lovely guest on, Maria Vaughn of Core Compost, and we had some technical difficulty with the recording. So, bonus track for y'all because I said an episode was coming out today at 8, and here it comes. So, today we're sticking with the same theme of food scraps, and we are talking about food scrap simple recipes. So, as I mentioned on another show, I am like obsessed with not wasting food. And when I was little, whenever my mom was cooking, everything that she cooked was either used for a next recipe or saved for something else. That's just how I was raised. And so that's just what I've always done too. I mean, I think for some reason, I just really hate the idea that there's like starving people out there. And I think about if you're wasting food, that's food that they could have. And the numbers of how much food are wasted are staggering. So if you're watching on YouTube, this is what you get today. Looks wise. I actually have been practicing what I've been preaching, and I just planted some onions and potatoes that sprouted. So if you've got any issue like that, you can try to do that. Basically, all you do is separate the parts that are growing out. I'm going to do a TikTok about it, so you'll see it. Simply B16 on TikTok, but basically just separate the sprouts, and then you take off all the parts that are mushy. And then if they don't have enough roots, you can kind of root them in some water for a little bit and then plant them. So we're going to see what happens with mine. I'm super excited. But yeah, and I grow onion scraps all the time from regular green onions. But so the world wastes, the simple truth is, you guys, that the world wastes about 2.5 billion tons of food every year. And the United States discards most of that food, more than any other country in the world. And that's nearly 60 million tons, which is 120 billion pounds of food every year. So basically about 40% of the entire food that's grown in America is wasted. So, you think of all the water that it takes, you think of all the machinery that industrial farming is required to grow all of those crops. It's just like really sad that 40% of that's like not a good track record. So it equates to about 325 pounds of food waste per person, not me, not this person. And that's like basically every person in America throwing away almost 1,000 apples, 975 apples, like bing. No. We have to do better than this, you guys. So, and food is the single largest component taking up space in United States landfills, I would gather anywhere. 22% of municipal solid waste, 22% of all the waste in municipal solid waste is food. 22%. The amount of food waste in America is approximately worth $218 billion. Like, how much is America in debt? That's $218 billion a year. Like, is that a year? I mean, I can't even wrap my head around these numbers, which is equivalent to $130 billion in meals. I don't really know how they came up with that number, but it's a lot of food waste. So this episode is really about simple recipes that I use and that I have found that I would like to try, about how to use your food scraps. You might see like the hashtag get scrappy or scraptastic. But yeah, so my simple confession is that I never throw away food. And sometimes I eat food that is not the freshest because I don't want to throw it away. But like, I never get sick, nothing ever happens to me, and it tastes perfectly fine, or else I wouldn't eat it. So, I mean, I'm still standing. I don't know. But that's my confession. I'm trying to be a little better about that. But The answer to what we're saying here is a lot of foods that are going bad or go bad more often can be used in some of these ways. So we're going to get into it. But your simple swap of the day is to use these recipes and try to salvage the food that you have and stop throwing it away. So the number one thing that I love to make when I have like a bunch of stuff in the refrigerator that I know I need to eat, well, let's actually start from the beginning. So, how you organize your refrigerator will really, really, really help you reduce food waste. So, like, I keep my fruits in one side and the veggies in the other because the humidity is different for both. And then, whatever I need to eat first, I'll put like on the top, right? Or like if I cut an onion and there's like onion left, I have like this little basket that I keep in the refrigerator, and that's like stuff that I should eat first. So whenever I'm making anything, I go to that little thing first. Um, my nails are really dirty. Sorry if you're looking on YouTube. Yeah, okay. So that's the first thing. And that really helps because then like anything that is gonna potentially go to waste is going to be right there and you're going to see it, because most of the time when you waste food, it's because you didn't realize it was there, or you didn't realize it was about to go bad or whatever. Another thing that I do is well, I already confessed this before, but I don't use plastic bags. I just let everything free ball. But if you can see it, like if you see a bunch of plastic bags, you're not as inclined to be like, oh, like this is broccoli that I got to use. You just say like, oh, it's broccoli in a plastic bag, it's fine, like out of sight out of mind, so make sure you can see your food. Okay, so then the first thing I really like to do is make a salad. So I see all these beautiful colorful ingredients. If I have lettuce either growing in the garden or I need to buy lettuce or whatever, making salads is a great way to kind of use up those little bits and pieces, especially for little things, like vegetables in a salad, because you only need a little bit. Like it's predominantly, lettuce and then whatever else. And so the more of the whatever else you have, the less you need of that one specific whatever else, and like I go crazy with salads. I'll put nuts, meats, cheese. I don't really use a lot of cheese, but if you have leftover cheese, it's a good way. But yeah, so the more you get in that salad, the more you can use up all your little scraps. So I love making salads. Another great thing that I like to make is soup. And a great tip for the soup is like when you have all those bits of veggies, instead of composting them, you can just stick them in the freezer and then you can boil them down and make a veggie broth. Especially like in the winter, if you have like veggie or bone broth, just to kind of sip on it on a cold day, or if you're not feeling great, that's a great way to kind of get in some extra nutrients and just feel warm and cozy and comforted. So I love that tip. And when you're making soup, you can pretty much throw anything in there. I mean, for those people that don't really cook a lot, you're just going to sort of take the things that you're using to make the soup, to make the broth, and then you'll strain it, and then you'll add in the other things. So like I always have carrots, celery, onion, and then whatever else I have. Like even if I don't have a lot of greens, I'll put a can of green beans in there. Really just whatever you have is always going to be good in a soup. If you have like leftover meat or tomato sauce or whatever, you can make some chili, but a soup is a great thing. The next thing I love to make is a charcuterie board. So like if I have a little bit of fruit, I have a little bit of veggies, just like a bunch of stuff that's left over. Again, it's similar to a salad where you don't need a lot of the one thing to make it look and feel very appetizing and to give you like all the things. Do you know what I mean? So if you only have a couple pieces of red pepper, that's all you need, especially if you have a little bit of broccoli or all the other stuff. So things that you might normally think to throw away because there's only a bite left, you can just use that little bite and put it on a charcuterie board, like a couple olives or a couple nuts or, whatever. Another thing that I like to make with my leftovers is a pasta dish. So same kind of thing where you've got the pasta as your main thing. And then, you have all these other leftovers that you can put together to make a really yummy dish. And that's one that like you can definitely like add some cheese or butter or whatever, just to kind of like bring all the ingredients together. And it's just always going to be really good. Pretty much no fail there. And if you have like some fresh basil or some fresh parsley and some lemon, you can always put that on the top to really kind of like bring everything together. I like to always add something that's a little fresh to the top. And I like to always try to do like a lot of colors because that makes me feel like it's fancy. Okay, an omelet. An omelet is another great way to use up little bits of whatever you've got. You don't need a lot of anything because, again, your main source is your egg. So you just add, your little bits of whatever you have to the omelet, and it makes a great scrappy dish. And I love breakfast. Who doesn't love breakfast? I can eat breakfast, lunch, or dinner, or brunch, or dinner. All right, so potatoes. I love me some potatoes, and you can do a bunch of things with leftover potatoes. If you have skins from making a like mashed potato where you had to peel the potatoes, or anything really where you had to peel the potatoes, you can wash them first, right? And then you take the skins and drizzle them with olive oil and some, I always use Celtic salt these days, but sea salt or whatever you have. Highly recommend if you don't have Celtic salt to get some and research why, because it will blow your mind. Anyway, but yeah, so then you just roast them and they're like little chippies. They're so good. And all right, so that's for potato skins. If you have leftover mashed potatoes, this is something my mom would make when we were kids all the time. One of my favorite things. You just throw an egg in there and mix it up, and then you make potato cakes. I'm sure everyone's had that, but they're so good if you forgot about them. And you can like add other stuff to them, right? Like you could add garlic or herbs or cheese or whatever, but I love me some potato cakes. Another thing you can do is make like a potato bowl or a potato hash. So again, you cut up your potatoes that you have and add onions, red peppers, jalapenos, cheese, whatever you want, and make like either a bowl or a potato hash. And I have a recipe that I did for that when I did my Simply Be Cooking. So I will put that in the show notes. Broccoli straws. So this is brilliant. And actually my niece likes the cuts rather than the top, which I think is crazy because doesn't even like vegetables. And to me, that's like very unheard of. But I saw a trick where if you take a peeler, like a potato peeler or whatever, and you peel the outside, that tough part underneath it is super, super tender. And then you dice it up like straws, and then you can just eat it like that. And it's really good. It's very good. It's like a similar taste of cabbage, because broccoli and cabbage I think are in the same family, but it's very good. Again, with a little salt, pepper, olive oil. All right. Another thing is mushy raspberries. So for me, my raspberries go bad all the time. I feel like they go bad so quickly. A trick to that is putting like a Swedish towel in there with them in a glass airtight container. But I do really have a hard time with raspberries. So a great way that you can salvage them if they start to get a little mushy is to make a raspberry salad dressing, which this quote unquote recipe will really work for any fruit that you have. But you basically take the raspberries, vinegar, olive oil, and a little squirt of mustard and shake it up. Makes a bangin' salad dressing. Bananas, right? So bananas, especially for me, because I really only like them when they're still green. Like once they get that sweet and they're all yellow, I'm not really down. So, you can stick them in the freezer and make a smoothie, but my pro tip is to like cut them up first, because otherwise when you try to take the skin off or the peel off, it really is annoying, and then you're just never going to do it. So then they're just going to, possibly another confession, stick your banana in the freezer for like ever, and that sucks for everyone. So don't do that. Cut them up first and have them ready for smoothies. But then also you can make like zucchini bread is a great thing to do with lots of zucchinis when your garden is popping, but like banana bread or anything like that. But yeah, I'm not really a baker, so, but frozen bananas are useful for smoothies at Faux Show. So this is another thing that I don't throw away is like the fat on anything because I use it for cooking. So whenever I make bacon, I'll pour it in like a little tuna fish can or whatever, and then I'll just keep it in the refrigerator. And then whenever I make eggs, I'll use the bacon fat for that instead of using my butter or my olive oil. So just kind of is another way to make your, I mean, you don't have to do that, but that's just what I do. This is one I have not tried that I really want to try. It's a southern thing. It's watermelon rind pickles. So I'm gonna have the link to the recipe that I found in the show notes. But yeah, it sounds like interesting. So cucumbers. So cucumbers are something that would typically kind of go bad on me. But I have recently discovered a couple things. One is whenever I get pickles, I'll save the juice. And so then I'll make more pickles with, first of all, it's got to be Clausen. Got to be Clausen. Cold, crispy Clausen pickle. That's tongue twister. Cold, crispy Clausen pickle. Cold, crispy Clausen pickle. Anyway, but I make pickles with that. And then you can also use leftover cucumbers to like, this is going to sound weird probably. My mother actually told me to do this and I thought she was weird, but then I tried it and I was like, oh my God, this is heavenly. You put the cucumbers like on your face, like under your eyes. Dude, it is crazy how good it feels. Another thing that I do with my cucumbers now is I've been putting it in my water. And I just put like a piece in there because it was just like leftover. And I didn't have a muddler, so I used like a honey thing. Like, holy life changer. It's so good. The water is like, I felt like I was at a fancy bar and they served me cucumber water. It was awesome. Yeah, and stick them on your face. Amazing. All right, so that's cucumbers. What else? Stale bread. So this is a great one. So if you have bread that goes bad, like beef, I mean, I don't know if it's moldy, I'd probably like pick the mold off. I don't know about that. But like when it goes stale, you know what I mean? Which I don't know about you guys, but bread does not go bad for me. I eat the shit out of some toast. But it's probably because I deprived myself of toast for many, many years. Anyways, if you have leftover bread, just stick it in the freezer. And then whenever you need breadcrumbs, you basically always have some on hand and then you don't have to buy breadcrumbs. And then the other thing that you can do is like, if you have a lot, by the time it's Thanksgiving, you can make stuffing with that, like homemade saved breadcrumbs. And then it says to put them in the food processor, but I don't have a food processor. So my little hack that I do is I put them in like a plastic bag and then I take like the plastic bag the bread came in is usually what I keep them in. But they're frozen, right? So then I'll take like a meat pounder and I'll pound the frozen bread to crush it. And it's like perfect. Because I don't know. I don't have a food processor. I don't have anywhere to put a food processor. My kitchen is very small. So that's like perfect for me. Anyway, that's my little trick. And then you can also put like breadcrumbs on the top of, macaroni and cheese or anything like that. And then my last and final favorite tip, which this one happens to me a fair amount, is when you have people over, right? And you serve like tortilla chips and then you have the bag open and then the tortilla chips get stale, especially around here because it's so humid. I feel like things go stale like that. And so what I do is I save the tortilla chips and then when you make nachos and you stick them in the oven, you can't even tell. They totally are like crispy again. And you just make the nachos as if they weren't stale. And I swear it is amazing. It's like they were never stale. So that's my favorite tip for tortilla chip nachos. So, thank you guys so much for listening. Please let me know what your favorite little tip or hack was. And if you have one, please share it with me. I love the hashtag Scraptastic, so you could tag me in that. I didn't make it up. Someone else did. But yeah, but tag me so I see it or send it to me in stories or something. At simp.lee.b because someone took Simply Be. that doesn't use Instagram anymore. The beer of the week is Sing Hai. I got some amazing Thai food and I got Sing Hai beer and it was so good. I hadn't had it in a long time. I forgot how good it was. And don't forget my codes. So just really quick, if you're on YouTube watching, I have no makeup on. And I used to never, it was like my dream to be able to like not wear makeup and not feel like I looked like a crackhead because I just would have like blemishes like all over my face. And I mean, I actually have one like right here, but it's like, who even cares? Like my skin looks great. And the reason for that is Clear Stem, code Brooke Chase. I literally erased 20 years of hormonal acne and it has really changed my life. I'm obsessed with Clear Stem. They're basically like a vitamin supplement, I would say, and you take them with food and they are fantastic. And then thank you also for everyone who's been buying Frownies. Like, orders been coming in and I mean that's great for me because I need my Frownies. I love Frownies. Code simple, 10% off. Thank you to everyone who's been putting orders in for Frownies. I love you guys so much. And thank you so much for listening. I hope that together we can avoid a lot more food waste. Oh, I forgot a joke. Sorry. These are my favorite jokes for food. These, I mean, I think they're all funny, but okay. What do you call a fake noodle? An impasta. Okay. What does a nosy pepper do? Gets jalapeno business. Get it? Jalapeno business. Okay. How fast is milk? It's pasteurized before you know it. All right, guys. Be scrappy. Don't waste your food. Stop throwing away your food. Start a compost. Just stick the scraps in the freezer. Stick them somewhere. And next week, I promise, Maria Vaughn of Core Compost will be with us to answer all of your compost questions. It's really, really simple. Don't be intimidated. If you have questions, there's still time to ask. And thank you all so much for listening. It means the world to me. Remember that alone we do so little, but together we do simply a lot. I love you. Bye.